Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to what I believe is the first Auxiliary Markings Club AGM. We thought it would be a good idea if we just shared with you some of the things that have happened this year and some of the plans for the future, and more than that, give you the opportunity to ask some questions if you had any. So I will just put up our agenda. I'm Greg Redner, by the way. And we're going to begin with a president's report, followed by a short report by the secretary and treasurer, Peter, webmaster's report from Doug. I think Andrew Kelly is coming, but if he's not, I have his report and I'd be happy to give it. And then talk about some plans for 2025-26, discuss any other business that arises, and then give you a chance to have some questions. So let's get started. So this year's big project was our joint anthology considering auxiliary markings, and Doug is going to share some what I think for me are really exciting figures on downloads and things of that. As you may remember, it was an open publication online that could be downloaded by anyone. And it was a great opportunity for us to work with another society, and we did that with the Canadian, it's gone now, the PSSC, and it was a great opportunity for us to collaborate on something kind of internationally, but also get a wide berth of articles, and I certainly enjoyed editing it and getting everyone's input and feedback on that. We had an expanded Zoom meeting schedule this year, which was a bit more regular. Our Facebook page has grown now to include posts for every day of the year, pretty much, unless there's a reason it's a bit too late to do them. We have redone our website, as you'll hear about from Doug, and we've reinvigorated what I believe is the one of the most important marketing tools we have, which is the AMC Exhibiting Award. So this year, as I say, our joint anthology was maybe the major project as an organization. The idea for this came from the fact that we wanted to be able to do something with another organization, work collaboratively, but also something that people would be able to access as a way to get the word out about the kind of thing that we do and show people the breadth of markings and things that we study internationally. So that was a very exciting project for the year. Our expanded Zoom meeting schedule, which will be continuing, or which continued through June of this year, had 8 presentations, which was very exciting for us. It's the first time we had done something monthly, and it was very well received. And we post these annually or monthly on our YouTube channel, which is getting increasing traffic. Also, when John and I talked about this, we discussed the possibility of doing something that was more regular than just the auxiliary markings journal/newsletter that we have been doing. And so we've been trying to put out a regular monthly e-newsletter, letting people know about the things that are coming up and news. And I'm a firm believer in the fact that it's really important. You have to keep the work of the club in front of the members, and that allows them to remain engaged. And so that's been very well received. Our Auxiliary Markings Exhibiting Award had become, the way it was operated in the past was clubs had to ask to give the award. Sorry, my phone is going a little bit crazy. I'm going to shut it off. Folks had to ask to be able to give the award, and then we would send them certificate that they could award. Well, what we've started to do now is to contact shows and offer it to them. And what's really nice is that if you win the award, you receive a free digital membership for a year for the club. And so it brings new people in with new ideas and also, again, gets the work of the club out there. The Facebook page is an international endeavor. We don't exclusively promote the markings of one country or another. It depends on what comes up. And as I say, I think last year we put up 340 of 365 days. And there's a lot of really positive interaction which has taken place around that page. And I see it as something that allows us to reach out to people who may not necessarily have an interest in auxiliary markings, get them to follow it, and then get them to know more about the club. One of the things that Doug and I worked on, which he'll fill you in on, is an update of the website. The one thing that I didn't put on here, because I didn't think it was really a formal action item, something we had done, is we've begun to think again about how we can do our catalog of auxiliary markings and what's practical and how that might be used. So that'll be coming up probably in the next year. We'll talk more about that. 2025 going forward, we stopped our Zoom meetings in June, and I was delighted to get a bunch of complaints about the fact that there were no meetings over the summer when people felt that there wasn't a lot going on. So our 2026 program goes right straight through the summer. And we have planned the Zoom meetings through December of 2026. And I'm very grateful to all the people who have agreed that they will promote even a year out, which is, I think, really generous and much appreciated. In 2026, we're going to mount our first ever virtual exhibit that has to do with auxiliary markings, but does not have to focus exclusively on them. The only thing we're asking is that whatever exhibit is put up will show an important focus on some aspect of auxiliary markings, if not exclusive to it. And we're going to be accepting one frame exhibits, one page exhibits, and standard length exhibits up to 10 frames. So I think if someone submits a 10-frame auxiliary markings exhibit, I think we'll all do a happy dance. But in the meantime, I think it's a great opportunity, again, to draw people in and advertise what we do. I've had a couple of people ask about the possibility of doing another anthology, different organizations, and so that's something you'll hear more about as we go into that. I'm certainly game to do it if there's the interest there to carry that through. And one of the focuses that we're going to try to really be aggressive with is partnering in some way with other clubs and societies. It's very easy to disregard something or not pay attention to it if you don't know anyone who's actually involved in it. If you know people that are involved in it, it suddenly becomes personal, and it becomes something where you're working with friends. And so you're going to be hearing in a bit from PK about one of the projects that we're supporting his society with, and he'll tell you about that. And then last of all, I would really like to expand the input on the Facebook page, and we'll talk about that on the next slide. So we're the best kept secret philatelically on the internet, I really believe. I did for a presentation on an early Brazilian marking for a marking label for a group a couple of weeks ago, and all of the people on there had no idea that the Auxiliary Markings Club actually existed, and some of them weren't even 100% sure even what an auxiliary marking was. So we need our membership to be an advocate for us And I hope that you will do that and that you'll let people know about the good work of this very storied group. With our social media pages, it would really be very helpful if you would like and follow our YouTube channel and our Facebook page. The more people that follow them, the higher the visibility of what we're doing is. And I would suggest if you can't make it to the meetings, by all means, please watch the videos online because they have been really very, very successful. And this season coming up, we have the most diverse group of programming, and I think there's something for everyone. The virtual exhibition in 2026, which will take place towards the end of October, we hope will bring new connections with people that, again, we might not necessarily might not find us or know about us. And as we always like to say on the YouTube videos and our Zoom presentations, if you're not a member, why not? Because this is the most affordable membership and certainly something that would benefit anyone. And last of all, please support our joint efforts. It's really important for the membership to be engaged. A healthy membership is one that is involved in all aspects of what we do, and we can't all do everything, but we certainly appreciate it when people are able to do something that is of interest to them or support another program or project that we have. So that's my report. Those are the exciting things that have happened. And Peter, I put up your report that you sent to me. Would you like to speak about it just a little bit?
Yes.
Thanks.
And my speech is dull, so we'll get over it quickly. We currently have 122 members of the organization. We are going up slightly this year. I think that is basically due to the Facebook and to the Zoom meetings. We've certainly gotten a response out of the Zoom meetings where you do a Zoom meeting and I start to see membership requests coming in within a few days. So that's working really well. And I'd like to see that continue. I'd like to see some growth. We've had a declining membership over the last 4 years or so. It was been stable about the last year, and I think that's partly due to the fact that we now have email copies, membership, which is much cheaper than the printed copy membership. It also saves a lot of paper in this world. We are going to start and end with a balance of about $2,500 this year, and that means that we're in reasonably good shape. I would want to continue our membership pricing until next year. I don't see a reason to change that. So I think it's been, from my perspective, it's been good that we've had this growth in membership and giving people who have an award, we give them a free membership that doesn't really cost us anything because it's the emailed membership. So I'm all for that, and I'm all grateful for anybody's support out there. I am going to put a do's or do in the next newsletter. The last time I did this, and then had to remind people that their dues were due, I got some pushback from people who said, well, I didn't get a mailing that said my dues were due. And I tried to be nice to those people and say, well, if we had to mail things out to people and say your dues are due and deal with that, then our dues would be higher in order to cover the cost of mailing out a whole bunch of mailings. So we don't do that. And I do have to prod some people, including one person who said, I'm not going to up my membership because I didn't get a mailing that said my dues were due. I sort of said, okay. So that's my report.
Thank you, Peter. And Peter is the person you go to with questions about pretty much anything to do with membership and logins and all that stuff. And it's a job that not everybody is willing to take on. So we're really grateful to you, Peter, and thank you for all you do for the club. So next up, we have Doug Quine's Webmasters report.
Good evening. I, I've got several things to talk about, all of which you've had at least a hint of, I think. First of all, our website was the thing that actually triggered the creation of the club originally after John Hoshner put a request. I think it was in Lynn Stamp News for interest. I decided the best way to communicate my interest was to build the website in 2003 and email him back. The website is live. I bought the domain name, and it's a club. So it was sort of a fun way to jumpstart it. The design of that website then stuck for 20 something years, and I think it became obvious. And in recent years, there was a suggestion we might update it a little bit. And so that design in the lower left evolved into the upper right. And I think one of the excellent suggestions that Greg made was to have tabs across the screen in different categories here. And within each of those categories, when you click on it, there's a pull down menu or fall down menu that tells you what's in that area, and you can then select it directly. And I think it makes it a lot more logical than it used to be, and therefore more convenient, easier to work with. Um, some key points of what's in there. If you haven't bothered to click on every single link and discover them yourself, all the way back to the beginning, every copy of our quarterly newsletter is in there. The early years were mailed in black and white, but the online copies, as far back as they exist in color, they're in color online, even if the mailed copies were black and white. Also, Dennis Ladd has done an incredible job of indexing our newsletters. He does it at the end of every year. And so you can go to the index and look up a particular marking. And it was very useful in the article I was writing for the forthcoming issue to see if the markings I was talking about had ever appeared before. So I find that to be a great resource. And thanks to Dennis. The club news, sort of self-explanatory. It's at the top of the home page and just sort of lists forthcoming events and so forth. Um, as Greg mentioned, the YouTube videos exist for all of our presentations, and they're listed in order. At the top of our web link, it shows the list of each of them with the presenter, the topic, and the date, and then below the actual links to the videos on YouTube. Also, you can download the anthology that Greg was talking about, and I might have the number of pages wrong there. I think it's close. I meant to double check it and forgot to. Uh, but the Concerning Auxiliary Markings anthology is a great resource. And when I was preparing for this update, I poked around a little bit in the website to see if I could figure out how many downloads there had been. And not quite yet. Can you back up one? Sorry. Um, and it turned out that there have been 89 downloads of that book in the month ending basically with our update. So here we are, half a year after it came out, and there's still 89 people downloading it. And finally, obviously the website has the ability to join the club or renew membership. Okay, now I'm ready for the next slide. Um, I think this is kind of fun. There's a thing called cluster maps, which is buried in our website, which shows where people are coming from. And up in the upper right-hand corner, it says December 31st, 2004 to December 30th, 2025. You may be a little skeptical. I do not have ESP, and this is not predicting the future. It is the interval that they're measuring, but obviously we're only three-quarters the way through it right now. So we've had over 10,000 visits in three-quarters of a year, and we cover all the way from the Pacific Northwest all the way to Japan, Australia, and New Zealand. So and down into South America. So we've got the globe pretty well covered. We don't get a lot of hits in the open ocean and the Pacific, which is understandable. Um, so I'm pleased that we've got this coverage, and maybe we need to push a little harder on our African and South American coverage. Certainly, Greg's been working on the South American side. Um, so those are the highlights I wanted to communicate, and I'm happy to answer any questions if they're at the tip of your tongue, or wait until the question section at the end. Sorry. Um, the last topic I wanted to touch on, which Greg alluded to, was the catalog. Um, the website does have the catalog that was basically made 20 years ago. It only has something like 800 entries. Um, Tony Wawakevich predicted there might be 1 million different auxiliary markings out there. So 800 is not even the tip of the iceberg. It's just the last piece of snow that fell on the top of the iceberg. Um, the question of how to do it, I raised, I believe, in the first issue this year of the newsletter, and there's not been a lot of feedback. The only feedback I got was from a non-collector who happened to read it and said, well, the obvious thing to do is to use Google Docs and the Google spreadsheets, and that way it could be crowdsourced and multiple people could be participating, and there could be a gatekeeper to basically approve the changes so that things don't get inadvertently corrupted. Um, so that's the update I have based on that proposal that I made. But I do think it would be great. And my personal view is the most important thing is to have a checklist of some sort. If you see a marking, return to sender, house collapsed in earthquake, has this ever been seen before? To my knowledge, no. It hasn't been seen ever. But if you see a marking and you want to know if it's known, it would be great just to have a list of all the known markings. And then better still would be a picture for each of them because they obviously come in variations. But the challenge is if we wind up with 30 or 40 or 50 parameters to record, like the date and the color and the font and the italics, then it's such an ordeal to put new marking in, it will never happen. And that's the trade-off, I think. And I should give credit to Tom because it was his work 20 years ago that put together the template that we still depend on. So that covers my thoughts.
Okay. Thanks, Doug. I'm very, very grateful to Doug, who has been a real resource. And I know sometimes when you create something like a website and it's your baby, and it's been that way for a long time, when some guy that you didn't know existed 6 months before shows up and says, could we rework the website some way? Probably there was a little bit of, knuckle biting for a few days, but he's so collaborative and so cooperative and so willing to do the things that need to be done enthusiastically. And I'm very grateful. So thank you.
Well, you're very welcome. And the one adventure was, it literally was the day after I went through and scrubbed all the redundant stuff out of it that Greg suggested a revision. So I just burned out a little bit, but then took a deep breath and started over with a revision instead of just the trimming of the chaff.
Well, thank you. It looks great. I don't think Andrew's here. Is he, Andrew Kelly? I don't think so. Okay, well, Andrew is our vice president, in addition to being the editor, at least until the end of October. As you know, Auxiliary Markings is our flagship journal. I like to call it a journal. I don't think it's a newsletter. If you prefer newsletter, that's fine. But there's so much wonderful material in that. And Andrew has done a really spectacular job of putting it together over the last 3 years, I think it is. And he's a master with the print program he uses, InDesign, which is something I have never mastered. Andrew told us in January at our board meeting that we had in January that he would be retiring from this position at the end of October because he's involved in a lot of other societies and edits, a lot of this stamp specialist for the United States Stamp Specialist Society, and So we certainly understood that. We were sorry to hear that was going to happen. But I'm really happy to say that we have found a new editor. And yes, I know exactly.
Doug volunteered.
And you'll find out about that in the newsletter, which will be coming out. Because I want to get a photo and a bio on him. But we're certainly enthusiastic about that and grateful. With the new editor coming on, I have to ask, please, please, please write articles. An article can be anything from one paragraph. If you remember the early days of auxiliary markings, when 85% of what was in there was Tony Worokevich's, one paragraph about this particular card or this marking, those things are great. And the main thing is we're always happy to help. If you have an idea and you want to rough it out, someone is happy to help flesh it out into an article and happy to proofread and do all of those things. So you are the expert on whatever it is that you are showing us, or you're the type of person that doesn't know what you're looking at and you want to know. And both of those things are super valuable. Please also send letters to the editor. I don't know about you, but in all of my philatelic journals, the first thing I look at is the letter to the editor, always. And I want to see, who's complaining about what now, so we love to have letters to the editors. As I said, please feel free to ask questions in the journal. If there's something you'd like to know or you'd like to know about a particular marking, we're happy with that. And last of all, please feel free to write short articles on things that are of interest to you. So I think that's it as far as the formal reports, as it were. I don't have any other business. Does anybody? We'll save questions till the end. But does anybody else have anything they'd like to add to tonight?
Two thoughts.
Yep.
One of them is I do think that the club's come a long way in the last few years regarding the diversity of writers in the journal. As you mentioned in the beginning, Tony did wind up writing a very large number of the articles. And I remember John Hoshner commenting one time that the sign of a mature organization is that there's a lot of diversity of writers and not simply that the poor editor has to write everything himself or herself. So I think that is good that we've come along, and as you said, we should continue to expand that and get more people writing. The other thought pertained to the dues due. And Peter, I was thinking, everybody who subscribes electronically gets an email from you, right? With
Yep.
the journal attached. So you could put the letter that you don't want to mail in the paper. If you put the dues notice at the top of that email, I think that would be very helpful, because I don't know about other people, but I find I'm so busy sometimes that I read the journal late or other journals late. I was at one point behind by 5 years in one of my journals, not ours. So I think if that's something that's sort of the banner, that this is your, the final one of your subscription, that might be helpful. And even if they don't have time to read the journal and see the notice, it'll be in the email.
Now, those are the easy ones to get to. It's the people who get the paper copy of the journal. It comes in an envelope. They are like you and I, don't open the envelopes because we're busy. And I'm looking at, the January issue in February or June or March or whatever. It's that same kind of stuff, but I'm going to try to get something on the outside of the envelope as well this time for the mailed copies.
So it needs an auxiliary marking.
Sorry.
Yes.
Can you attach something to the address label, the perhaps top line or bottom line of the address label? Your dues are due. Look, read inside or something.
I'm hoping for more than that. We're now with a professional printer, and they're printing the envelopes and everything else, and I'm hoping that they can put sort of a banner, a bigger banner, an auxiliary marking that your dues are due on the outside of the envelope, not just on a label, if you will.
Yeah, it's great. That's great. Okay, anything else? Okay, well, one of the programs that we're excited about supporting is MCPEX 26. Our most regular attendee from the farthest distance is always PK, and I believe that it's 5 o'clock in the morning in India right now, and he is up, and he's going to tell us a little bit about AMSAPEX 26 and their upcoming Zoom meeting and his website. So go ahead, PK.
Thank you, Greg. And of course, it's really kind of you to start these meetings at the wonderful 4:30 a.m. in India for me, bright and early. So happy to be here. Um, I have a small presentation, Greg, if I could share that.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm going to get into slideshow. Are you seeing the audience view or the presenter view?
Audience.
Okay, great. All right. So I'm now speaking about the Airmail Society India Foundation, and we are organizing AMCPEX 26. We held our first exhibition earlier this year, AMCPEX 25. It's a virtual aero and astrophilately exhibition, and this will be on 14th to 22nd February 2026. It's all virtual. In 2025, we had about 280 frames that we exhibited. They are all available for you to view on our MCPEX website, and I'll be sharing the URL as I go along. Some of the innovations that we've done here is one is we've created a World Team Championship. So three one-frame exhibits can combine to form a team. So they will be judged individually for single frame medals, but they can also form a team. So if we have three of your members participating in one frame exhibit, you could also get together and form a team and try to win the World Team Championship. This would, I'm sure, create tremendous awareness for auxiliary markings. So one of the question, of course, is that how does auxiliary marking exhibit qualify for a aerophilately or a astrophilately exhibit? So here what we've done is MCPEX is what we call a broad spectrum exhibition. So long as your exhibit somehow connected to airmail or rocket mail for that matter, you can exhibit it and it would be judged under the appropriate category. So let's say if your auxiliary marking would typically come under the postal history class, it will be judged according to the rules of postal history, but it's eligible for participation in MCPEX. So I would really encourage members of the Auxiliary Marking Club, please put in your entries. And if you're entering one frame, three of you get together and participate and, potentially win the World Championship. This is the first time we are having the World Team Championship. The other innovation that we're doing to promote again more global inclusivity is we are going to accept exhibits in 4 languages: English, French, German, and Spanish. So the judging will be done in the native language of the exhibit. So the jury we have will be international and will be able to judge it. But we are also doing an experimental software where the viewers could see it in the native language as well as an English translation. I must say we haven't got it completely right. It's experimental, but I think it's good enough to give the viewer an appreciation of an exhibit in French, German, or Spanish. Um, we've also created a novice class. So exhibitors who've not exhibited before or who are not eligible, have not got enough marks to participate in the competitive class, they can still exhibit. And we have a youth class as well. We've got 3 age groups for youth. And for them, one entry is free and the other entries are at a 50% discount. In any case, being a virtual exhibition, the entry fees per frame are very, very low. And all information is on our website, including the IREX. And single frame exhibits are also going to be given medals. This has been organized with the support of 6 different societies. The Auxiliary Marking Club itself has been good enough to support us. Also, the American Airmail Society, British Airmail Society, the French Society, Belgian Astrophilatelic Society, and Wreck and Crash Mail. We've got financial support from David Feldman, Argyle Etkin, and Spink, which helps us to put this together. And if you want to just take a picture with your phone camera of the QR code, it'll take you straight to our website. You can see all about AMCPEX. You can also access the entry form, online entry form, and the IREX. It's all there. I will also forward this deck to Greg with a request if you can just forward it to some of them, all your members, including those who could not attend. That would be very helpful. We also have monthly Zoom meetings on aerophilatelic and astrophilatelic topics. The next meeting is on Friday, which is 2 days from now. We have 2 speakers this time on very interesting topics. And the Zoom meeting URL, meeting ID, and passcode is here, and a QR code. So again, if you like to take a picture of this QR code, it will help you to join. It'll also be in the deck, which I forward to Greg. The third thing is, I think it's a little parallel to what we are already doing in AMC. We need to figure out how we can bring it together. But this collector from the Netherlands, Jan Christian Terwel, had published this book many years ago, basically building on the work started by Ian McQueen in the, I think, 1990s, which he published a couple of times and revised. And he then passed on all his work to Jan. Jan then published this book and revised it last, I think, 2010. So we have collaborated since then. And as he's getting on in age, he has passed on his entire collection and copyright for the book to me. Um, what I have done with his permission is digitize the whole book and put it on the net. So the website is jusqua.org, and all the contents of his book are available there. What I've also tried to do is start putting actual images of covers and linking them to the Jusqua markings and the route indicating hand stamp. So this is a subset of the broader scope of auxiliary markings, but it's certainly quite useful. I've created a special India section, which of course is my subject of study, which I've gone a little deeper and beyond the definition of just Jusqua and route indicators there. I also realize that it's very incomplete, and I'm sure there'll be several mistakes I've made in, linking images with and putting some of the descriptions. So very, very open to feedback and collaboration on this. So with this, Greg, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak here. One more thing I do want to add, which is a personal project for me, and it's been sort of crawling along at a terrible pace, but nevertheless, uh, as a student of postal history, what I've found is that typically, like even the book here and other publications tend to catalog auxiliary markings just by design, color, period of usage, etc. What I've been trying to do is actually go by the postal history. So for Indian Airmail, I've actually tried to first collect all the postal notices going back to 1927, all, uh, all the postal notices after that. And the postal notices talk a lot about the superscription needed on covers, the endorsements to be put on cover, whether handwritten, typewritten, or hand stamps, or printed labels, or whatever. So, how these markings have evolved from a postal history perspective. And that has been a very interesting project for me so that I could actually not just catalog the marking but understand the context. Very often, the postal treatment that is needed for a cover and things like that. So, working on it, and hopefully someday I will publish that as well. So with this, thank you, Greg, and I hand over back to you. I'll stop sharing.
Thanks so much. And that's the kind of thing that we're trying to do, and it's exciting to me to be part of that project. So I hope that we'll have some membership who will go along with it, and we'd love to have you do a presentation on those markings for us when you've got it all sorted out. That would be great. So does anyone have any questions or anything, suggestions or anything they'd like to add?
Yeah, I got a couple of questions for you based
Sure.
on your presentations. I'm sure, like all of you, belong to lots of groups and lots of clubs and things like that. I think one of the things that just kind of struck me, I'm looking at the total membership of 100 some odd members or so, and the breakdown between those which are receiving print copies of the newsletter versus email. Almost every other group that I belong to, the email category has far taken over the print number of copies. I just want to note that and see what kind of comments you all have in that regards.
Well, first of all, the email for us is new. Yes, I'm in the same boat. I belong to a number of organizations. And as soon as they've offered an email category, I've taken it up because I don't want the paper. I do keep all these things. I do have all the electronic versions of things, but I don't want all the paper anymore. But, and I've been a force in trying to get other societies to adopt an email. And some of those drag their feet and don't want to do that. I think they want to spend all their money, subscription money, on sending out, paper. But for us, it's new. We've sort of messed with it the last 2 years. I think the direction is going towards electronic. And we've had some people who are, I would make bets this year, we're going to have people who are going to renew as electronic members rather than paper members.
It's also, we're also in a strange point in history for philately. We've got a group like this group here who stands kind of halfway between the non-digital world and the digital world. I mean, there weren't any computers that I could access when I was a kid. But we've got a whole group of people now for whom the world has always been digital. But along with that, this club has a lot of long-standing members who are just used to having a paper copy, and for whom the idea of a digital copy is not something that they have any interest in. So I think over the next few years we'll see that change, and my sense is that most people nowadays would rather that people in the non-digital, digital split world or the digital world would rather have an e-copy than a hard copy. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. Doug, you're muted. Yeah.
Thank you. I think one thing we might want to highlight is the availability of every back issue online, because like many philatelists, I kept my back copies and they gradually took over my study. And right now, most of those journals are not available online. A few of them are, but they're a real pain to access and they're not indexed or anything. So I think the fact that we make them available and they have an index makes the argument for keeping the old copies much weaker. Even bank statements, some people don't keep them anymore, but the bank throws away your digital copy after a few years. If you need old records, you can't get them. But with our club, you can get them all the way back. So I think that if we point that out, then that reinforces the fact that you don't have to get it on paper. I still have not found a good solution for the fact that I used to always read at breakfast, put the journal in front of me and read it. It doesn't read well on a phone, and I don't lug my computer down to the kitchen. So that's why I get behind in the digital ones. And that, I think, is the only downside I see.
You need a tablet.
Peter's holding up the solution. I had the same thing. As my stepson said to me the other day, I think that thing is attached to your hip. Arnie, did you have something you wanted to say? Okay. And Tom, you said you had a couple of things. Is there something else?
Well, I'm just wondering, of the 70 some odd people that are still getting the newsletter in paper, how many of those have email addresses and how many don't? Any idea?
Yes, I have email addresses that in theory work for everybody, except for one person who recently joined, and he doesn't want to give me an email address.
It can happen. All right.
But I think I have a working email for everyone except one.
Okay.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah.
PK?
Yeah. So this, debate on digital versus print is something that's been going on in almost all the clubs and societies where I'm a member. And, like I think a very big fan and follower of digital myself. The Airmail Society of India is, for example, 100% digital. And, we spoke about the advantages of less storage space and all of that. One thing we should not keep sight of is that digital over the last 20, 30 years, the format and technology has continuously evolved and changed. There was a time we stored information on floppy disks. We then moved on to compact disks. We moved on to DVDs, hard disk drives. Now it's on the net. The programming languages have changed. The threats in terms of, hacking, cyber attacks, and all of that have come in. The one thing that has survived for centuries has been print. So as we evolve as a society and as we, move increasingly to digital, we must not forget the importance of maintaining a physical printed archive. Otherwise, we may just lose years and years of valuable information.
And I think that for those of you that follow these sort of things, one of the things that's been really exciting to me is to see all the libraries around North America who have suddenly started to realize that when a club shuts down, its digital presence disappears. And so there's a tremendous move right now amongst archivists and librarians to make sure that those things are preserved just like books and that kind of thing, so that hopefully we won't lose digital, digital only websites and things that some of which are gone now, but hopefully we'll be able to preserve them going forward. So. All right. Well, thank you all very much for being here, and thank you if you're watching this later on. Thank you. I love this club, and I have not in my career in philately have ever met a nicer group of people and a more collaborative and friendly group of people, and I really enjoy being part of this. And thank you for the opportunity to lead the group. So we'll end it for tonight, and we thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.